We're sitting down with Kyrin down. Kyrin, thank you for being here.
What's up?
You're
What's
the
up?
man.
You're the man, Cole. Thank you.
Dude, so pretty much the reason we're here is because we're in the Dead Parent Club and we have a very specific experience that we've lived through. Your mom passed away, I believe, in May 2024, and my dad passed away in August 2024. And it's been a year since these things happened. And I just wanted to focus on just like the grieving process. I feel like there's not a lot of conversations and podcasts about grieving or about like a person literally experiencing it. There might be some sort of doctor or some sort of psychologist talking about it, and you know, maybe this is just because I haven't looked out for it, but like there just doesn't seem to be a lot of content about grieving. So I was just curious, like what's been your, like, overall experience, dude, while we're starting out? Like, what's it been like 1 year after losing your mom? That's so, like, that sucks, dude.
Yeah, yeah. The I'd say something similar as well in that you can hear about it in kind of various forms of people would say, someone who's lost their mum perhaps like 5 years ago or something like that, but it's not the kind of full stages, especially like a yeah, like getting a club together and organizing like, yeah, let's share our learnings after 1 year. You don't get much of that.
Yeah.
Look, yeah, obviously tremendously like painful, probably one of the most impactful things that you or I will go through for certainly the next 5-10 years probably. uh the the stinging of it has gone away a lot. So for example, I would dream about my mum really often, probably at least once a week for probably the first 9 months, I'd say. And it's actually only really recently that I've noticed that's happening less often, and it's maybe close to like once a month now instead of once a week. Um, so I think just with time, your memory of them fades as well a little bit, which is a little bit sad as well because memories just fade over time. I don't remember that much from when I was a kid, and I could probably count like 50 memories perhaps if I really tallied them all up. Teenage years, maybe that's couple hundred instances, and then more recent stuff. Obviously, like I can recall everything I did yesterday. So as I think now, it's like, yeah, you know what? I mum as a kind of entity in my mind is becoming a bit more crystallized into, I don't know, all of the moments that were, and it's less changing than perhaps it would be as I view my dad now, who is still alive. I still interact with on a week by week basis, and he's much more like fluid and forming. Like there can still be differences in our relationship, whereas the relationship I have with my mom is now like set in stone. That's everything as it was. So those are a couple of like the instances in terms of grieving. Yeah, I guess that just depends on how it occurred. My mom's battle with Alzheimer's was just a long, slow process over. She was diagnosed in late 2016. So what was that? 8-ish years. And so it was very noticeable, the decline, and especially the last 9 months. You're getting stuff being said like, hey, you know it's unlikely she was gonna be around more than a year from now, and in fact it will be much more likely that it'll be less than that. And that was correct. It was probably like 6 months after hearing that, if that. So those sorts of things, I guess, gave me a lot of preparation for what was to come. So uh it didn't hit me in terms of just life shattering. The 2 days after, 3 days after her passing was kind of just like, okay, well, it's life as normal, I guess. Just now mum isn't here now. So yeah, those were a couple of things that I noticed for sure. For sure. How about you
Yeah, man.
for yourself?
I mean, it's been like wild. So I've had a similar experience with the dreams. I had some pretty intense dreams with my dad. I shared this one story on the podcast of it was I think it was in like a month or so, maybe 6 weeks after the death, and I had this insane dream where I'm in my living room at my childhood home, and I see my dad sitting on the couch, and he like I can like clearly see him, and he looks like how he did when he was younger and like when I was a young kid.
Hmm.
And I sat down next to him, and he like we were just looking at each other, and I said, "I just want to feel you touch my back." And then like I sort of laid down in front of him on the couch on my stomach, and then I physically felt his hand touch my back, and then I was having like spasms, like back spasms in the dream, and I was feeling electricity, like actually feeling shock within my back muscles. And I was like dry heaving in the dream. And then I wake up and I'm like dry heaving in real life, and my back is spasming in real life. And it took like a good 5-10 minutes for my body to calm down. I'm like, what is going on? What the fuck? And
That's an intense way to wake up. Wow.
dude, it was, and and me being a spiritual person, I sort of take that as like as a spiritual confirmation of like there was some real communication there. 'Cause, like, I've never heard of that from anyone. Like, that's some like, it's spooky. If it's not spiritual, it's certainly spooky.
Mm.
Um, and it's, either way you wanna go with it, it was super intense, and, I remember telling that story to my mom, and I'm, like, crying to her. I'm like, it's just like, I didn't think I would experience that, because like, you might have, like, a normal night, just go to bed normal, and then you don't know what you're gonna dream, and it's, and then that happens.
Yeah.
Um
How does he appear to you in your dreams? Because mum, for example, sometimes with her Alzheimer's, it changed her personality a lot, and f- physically she decayed a bit, but she was still quite strong. Like she was still like a strong lady. Like if she gripped your arm, like it would hurt. And
Yeah.
for example, with her, she was always very calm, measured in prior to the Alzheimer's, and then towards the end, especially the last 9 months, there was like a real personality switch within her, and she became very violent, angry, in a lot of pain, suffering, and things like that. And sometimes in my dreams, probably most of the time, it was in her final states, which was quite distressing. It was distressing at the time. In my dreams, it was still distressing. But a couple of times it would be her as she once was, like as a younger, probably around my age now, like the early 30s, is how I would remember her. And that was quite. Those were nice. Those were kind of cathartic in a way. So there was. I had some real variations of the ways she would appear to me in my dreams as well.
Would she appear to you like older? Because like my dad has always been like his younger self. He was never like in his 40s. He was never sick in my dream. He was always like how I remember him at Disney.
Yeah, no, mum was mostly how she was right towards the end. Yeah. So as
Interesting.
just before she passed, which
Interesting.
which I think for me is just more kind of like I was saying. I That's my more recent memories of her. That's how I remember her more. Um, what I'm hoping is over time, actually, that I'll remember her probably more as like she was when I was a kid, because I've got photos of her over the last couple of years as well, but um, I'm certainly more interested and more wanting to watch old videos and old photos of her, as compared to like the more recent stuff, which is much more harder. It's certainly harder to do that. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that will kind of change over time as well for myself.
I hope it does, dude. I think there's just so much trauma when it comes to like the end of the life. Some people might, that might be like a really sticking memory. But for me, like, my family has photos a few weeks before he died. There's like it was his birthday in July, and then he passed in August, right? And so we got the whole family together, and we have like these last family photos during sunset in our backyard, and like he was like able to walk and talk, and he was able to like be normal somewhat, but that was definitely like towards the end, and he was like definitely withering, and I didn't have like I don't want to remember him like that. Like that just seems like they're beautiful pictures, but it's just like such a sad image compared to like the same year 6 months prior on my birthday. He looks completely normal on my birthday, and so I'm just happy that I can have that image of him looking somewhat normal, rather than towards the end, because like the end just sucked.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's fine to do as well. Some people might arguing like, oh, you're leaning away. You're obviously trying to hide away from perhaps this version of him, and that speaks more to you than perhaps the reality of it. You're trying to deny reality, something like this. I kind of view something like that, and not that anyone said that, but that's kind of a thing that is worth considering, maybe. Uh, but I
Yeah.
view that more as more kind of, if we were to look at the dreams, for example. If you go back to Freud, he would analyze your dreams, and you he there was always, I don't think there was ever a time where he'd look at a dream and say someone and be just like, yeah, that's just a dream. Yeah, maybe you were just hungry. It's always like, no, you wanted to have sex with your mom, and you wanted to fight with your dad because of that, and like Oedipal
Right.
complex, or like you're all messed up and things like this. And I'm more of the opinion that things like that is just, what, sometimes, I remember this dream I had as a kid where I was kind of, do you know the Dover cliffs? They're these cliffs. I think they're in the UK, and just really really steep cliffs. And I remember it was the like a photo that I'd seen of them, and I was kind of closer to the bottom or wherever the photo was taken from. There was this cow at the top, and the cow fell off the cliff, and I shot it with a rocket launcher, and the cow exploded. And I just remember thinking like, man, what can you take away from that dream? Like how deep can you really analyze that, or can you just go like, wow, that's a really fucking weird dream, and just leave it at that?
Yeah, some dreams are random. I definitely believe that as well. Some dreams mean something, some dreams do not. Some dreams are just your subconscious swirling for no reason.
Yeah, yeah, I'm the same. There's certainly things where it can perhaps expose to yourself. You go, oh, this is something I am thinking about, or this is a relationship hmm, issue, or perhaps something that's in the back of your mind that you've never voiced particularly. Sure, I totally on board with that. Uh, so for myself, when I look at some of the behaviors or things that I did, I can go, oh, okay, that was obviously a direct impact of mum passing. The week after she passed was probably the most dangerous time of my life for myself, because I remember I was driving, not, I don't want to say erratically, but I certainly cared less. And so and that reflected in some of my other behaviors as well, where I was just, it was semi self destructive. I just stopped caring about a bunch of things. Thankfully, that only lasted a week, and um, you know, uh, I'm less at risk of dying in a car crash because of that. Uh,
Yeah.
and then other things is just, yeah, the more longer time scale stuff. Wanting to leave Australia and go to Brazil for a few months. I actually was in Brazil when uh, I got the news.
That's right, you were traveling, dude. You had to fly across the freaking world to, like, experience that. That's so crazy.
Yeah, that was intense because, you know, I was in a bit of a rut in terms of just feeling like, I've been in Australia the last what, 4 years. I really enjoy traveling. Ever since COVID, I'd kind of been in Australia, just hanging around. Really, it felt, probably this is due to COVID as well. I felt like many years were just kind of passing by. 2021 and 2022, for example, those years are just a blur. They, lockdowns, and then yeah, it's so strange how we're all just now now like past it all. It's like it never happened.
Yeah. It's
Uh,
all normal now.
yeah, yeah, right. And uh, so I felt like I needed to get out of Australia, do something a little bit different, just kind of change up my pattern routine, whilst also knowing, the doctors had said, your mum might last a year, she might last a couple of months. Like it was very up in the air. And I actually consulted my brother and dad about this because I was saying like, uh, what do you guys think? I obviously want to be here. I'd love to help, but by that stage, mum was in the hospital. Didn't recognize me. Only one she kind of recognized was my dad, and even then, like she was already gone in many ways. There was her body was still physically there, but her mind was not. And I remember, asking them like, "What do you guys think?" Like, I feel like I'm just torturing myself being here with her. I want to be here and I guess like help be there for her, but there's nothing I'm doing. Like nothing. It's not making a difference. It's just worsening my life. Uh, and then I also already had kind of some stuff booked in. Like I'd already booked the flights. I'd already done these other things, and so yeah, I with upon consulting them and doctors and stuff, it was just like, all right, I'll travel, and if I have to come back, I'll come back, and it ended up being 1 month, so it was kind of worth it in a sense, and I got lucky in that I was able to come back and uh, you know spend one last time with her before she passed away the night that I returned. So I kind of
That's crazy, dude. What was that like? Like, can you like,
oh
retrospectively, can you believe, like, you had one more night? Like, that's wild.
yeah, yeah, I'm definitely not as much spiritual as you are, but I certainly have portions of me who likes to dive into that likes to dive into it. And
Mhm.
uh yeah, coming back by this stage she was just on kind of fluids and stuff, just in a bed, you basically in a coma, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah.
And I got to straight from the airport I went to see her. So I was already, you know, that was must have been like a 30 something hour flight, and so I was pretty wrecked, and
Wow.
just, but I was still lucid enough, and yeah, just seeing at her, it was nice to see her calm, even though she was, essentially just very emaciated, and the prognosis was, she's now got a couple of days left, and
Mm.
uh, I remember at one point I was just alone with her for a couple of minutes, and just like holding her hand, being next to her, and was just talking to her, and I kind of saw like her eyelids flutter, and this is one of those times where it's like, did she was that just fluttering eyelids? Was that her actually hearing my voice? Was there something deep inside of her that recognized that I was now home, and perhaps she could pass away now? Um, all of those sorts of things. I don't know. I don't know about that sort of stuff, but yeah, it was very intense and then very sad. You know, probably like one of the deepest sleeps of my life uh, that night because I was so wrecked, and then waking up to a message from dad saying, she'd passed away at midnight. So intense, intense, man. Yeah. And
Yeah.
yeah, just going through all the normal things of kind of crying a lot those next
Yeah.
couple of days. Uh, yeah,
That's
it, it
crazy, dude.
it sounded kind of just as intense as your experience. Because I remember hearing you detailing that.
Oh my god, yeah, dude. It's like, it was like 1 week of hospice, right? So my dad dies of cancer, right? Or dies, technically of liver disease, liver failure, because the cancer was in his liver. And it's like, um, you're just seeing this guy turn yellow and like smaller and like shrinking. Parts of his body are shrinking and parts of his body are getting inflamed and stuff like that. It's like, what is going on here? And his it's not that he wasn't, forgetting, but he was, like, uncommunicative, you know? So it's, like, just, like, that whole seeing that progression happening within that 1 week, it's just like, "Whoa." Like, that was one thing that, like, really hit me, I remember. It's just, like, there was one day where so he needed like help walking to the bathroom, right? And when I first got home, and the whole thing happened at home, which is I think is another like crazy experience. I'm not sure if any other people, I'm not sure how many people have that experience. To That's my childhood home, and like they bought that 20 years ago, and it's like I don't know how many people have that specific experience, but when I first get there, he needed help walking to the bathroom, and at first it was just like balancing because like because his legs were swollen, and then there was like a little decline the next day, and then whenever he would do it, he would like have his hands on my shoulders, and he would like always like squeeze my shoulders, whether it's either because of like he's just like telling me that he loves me through that touch, or like he actually like needs that help balancing, whatever. Most likely both. Um, One day, like one morning, I'm helping him to the bathroom, and like his grip was just like not there, like just not there at all, like barely a hand on my shoulder. And his head was just like droopier. And I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, it's like you don't know what death is going to look like until you're right there, man. And it's so unique for everyone else. And, luckily, I think the silver lining in both of our stories is that there was like a peaceful in the night passing.
Mm.
That's like probably one of the best things that could happen. Randomly, I saw this movie. They just put out this movie 28 years later. It's that like sequel to that zombie movie.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And dude, like, there's this line. The actor, the same actor who plays Voldemort in the Harry Potter movies, he's in the movie, right? And he plays this doctor, and he's talking to this kid, and this kid's mom has cancer, and this doctor, dude, he has this like insane line of like how there's different types of deaths, and like the best deaths are the peaceful ones. And I'm crying my eyes out at this zombie movie. Like it's crazy, dude. And but like that line really hit me in that film because it's like, wow, like even though like there's like such pain, I'm able to like still like be grateful that like there wasn't like that much suffering, and at least like he did die in his sleep, and like that's like how everyone would want to go. And it's like, when I think about that last night, I just said goodnight to him like normal. And he sort of like did like a little like wave and like, little mumble like good night, love you. Um, and like that was like ironically as well, that was like when like my grandparents had came over and they had spoke to him, and my aunt came over, and they weren't that present during the week of hospice, but they were there that night. And then like after that night when they all show up is when he dies. It's just like there's like these serendipity things that happen. And just like the night was sad, but it was also so normal. And like I also had like a peaceful night's sleep somewhat, because my mom then wakes me up at like 4 in the morning. And then it's like, my mom was the one who found out, who like, she was laying right next to him. And so just like that whole morning was just like it was surreal. And just because of the way I am, because my family grew up Christian, I see that night as like holy in some sense. It was like, you get this early morning, there's always this like lore of early morning. If you like want to be successful, you wake up early in the morning. If you want to connect with God, you wake up early in the morning. It's just like, when you have that death early in the morning, like that's just that really hit me in a really interesting way. And just like seeing the sunrise on that type of day was really crazy.
Yeah, yeah, I bet.
Yeah,
The
man.
do you feel the have you seen many differences between the way you've handled it, reacted to the passing compared to family members?
I would say I've had the most spiritual experience. Even though my whole family is Christian, I do not identify as a Christian, but my experience post death has been more spiritual for some reason. And maybe this is my ego talking, but like for some reason, I feel like I am more like I have a better grasp on the spiritual side of this whole situation than everyone in my family. I'm not too sure how my sisters are dealing with it. Like, my sisters are okay, but like I haven't really had like deep spiritual conversations with them. It's hard to talk to my grandparents who've been Christians for decades and decades. Um, like I'm not connecting with them spiritually. And, and my mom just going through what she did, like it's not there. Like it's like if I say something spiritual, like it doesn't really click or like it's not really like getting to them somehow. And for some reason I just have this, it feels like I have like some knowing, and just like this peace about the spiritual side of things. And trying to just look on the more grateful side of things and try to look on the more like what the value of the life is more important than the loss of the life. That's sort of like where my spirituality goes from that.
Mm.
Um, but like along with that though, that first month, I was sort of in the same boat as you were. I'm like, I was being pretty self-destructive, wasn't really working out. I tried to work out. I don't remember working out that first month. Um, I drinking a lot, smoking a lot of weed. I stopped smoking weed since then. So like I haven't smoked weed since this past October, so almost a year ago. Um, but I was smoking a lot of weed and drinking a lot of drinks. And my family's house doesn't help me at all because like my parents were always like the party people, like they would always, if there was any party to be had, it was probably at our house. And they made a whole, we call it like the beverage station. We got the coffee, we got the mini fridge, we got a whole like pretty, it's a huge line of alcohol and liquor and stuff like that. And so all of us, the four of us or five of us, my dad's mom was there with us. So we were just making mixed drinks, having a little routine with that. And some of us would drink in the morning. Most of us were drinking in the morning. The
Yeah,
usual routine would,
that's
yeah.
usually a bad sign.
Dude, you have no idea, kinda like, we're smoking so, like, my sisters and I, we would go to the dispensary, we get, like, the normal flower weed, and then we also get our vapes, and so we're vaping in the morning, we're smoking out of a bong in the morning, then we're having some breakfast, and then we're making a little cocktail, we're, like, we're putting a little whiskey in the coffee, like, it wasn't good. And, I ended up meeting up with an old friend from school. I had known this guy since I was like 5 years old. Towards the end of August last year, and him and I went to the bar, and it was like he was like he wanted to talk to me and hang out with me because of my dad, but also we hadn't seen each other in years, and so it was like a catch up. And we're at the bar, we're having a good time. We're having a fucking awesome time at the bar, and I'm drinking like I had like 4 Moscow Mules. That's like my go-to drink, a little bit of ginger beer, a little
Oh,
bit of
yeah.
vodka. Yeah, dude, a little bit of lime. So I have like 4 of those and he pays for them. And then we're going to another bar. And like, I end up just like, I shouldn't have driven home, but I did, you know? And I remember that next morning, I'm like super hungover. And before all of this, right, I was like meditating. I've been practicing meditating and just like mainly just like calming calming my breath and trying to conjure up positive emotions and trying to feel that in my heart. It's a very specific meditation. And I just had like the instinct to do it, even though I was hungover. And I had this insane moment that I did not anticipate and I was not trying to achieve. But I was in my room and just like sitting on my bed and the lights were off. And all of a sudden I was getting like it wasn't a voice. I was like seeing like words flicker, like almost like like an old fashioned Rolodex. It was like a Rolodex of words, and the words were like a message, just like just like flipping through like that. And the message that I was like getting was, you need to consume less. And pretty much, and like everything that I was like consuming, it was like being shown to me. And I took like a moment. I was like, am I thinking this? Am I feeling guilty for drinking? Like, and I literally like, it was this weird thing where in my mind I took a step back and I was like, am I thinking these thoughts? And a certain thing within me said like, no, you're not thinking these thoughts, these are coming from somewhere else. And this like, just you need to drink less, you need to smoke less, you need to look at less porn, just like over and over and over and over and over again. I'm like, wow. this is real. That's a real message right there. And so, after that moment, I sort of just like I did my best to slow down, and I'm like, okay, now I need to like phase myself out of this. And luckily I've been able to do that. I'm still battling some bosses here and there, but the good thing is that I'm aware, you know.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Uh, that seems normal to to go through something
Yeah.
like that, especially right afterwards. I actually probably the thing that I've found is the most sticky in terms of something I need to work on or um, pay more attention to is funnily enough anger. I'm not normally an angry dude. It's not an emotion I've ever really felt connected with. Even if people like cut me off in traffic or things like that, anger's not my go-to. It's not my normal reaction. But I have certainly felt a lot of resentment. Yeah, I'd call it anger at times. Not towards people or anything. Almost, if anything, it'd be towards the world a little bit, just as a concept towards the universe. Like how why did mum suffer like this? How dare you make her suffer like this? That sort of feeling. The I went for a workout the next day after mum passed, and I was outdoor. It was like beautiful, beautiful like winter day here in Brisbane. So just think like 20 degrees Celsius temperature, like sun is on you, no wind. It's really nice, and I was just out by the river, and I'm just doing it just for the sake of doing it, not because I'm particularly really want to be there. Although I do enjoy workouts just in general, so maybe there was a little bit of like you get the endorphin boost and whatnot. And there was these kind of punk teenagers who were just like shitheads, just real shitheads, who I had seen around that area before, and they kind of knew me and came up to me and just started being like dickheads, like getting the phone out in your face, and so I'm just doing handstands there, and they're like, "Oh, you're on TikTok now. Do you want to say anything to people?" Even though obviously that I wasn't on TikTok. There was
What?
just teenagers being teenagers, man, and shitty teenagers. No, don't want to throw them all under the bus. And
No,
that
we can throw them. We can throw them and run them over.
well, dude, that was the closest I've ever come to probably physically assaulting someone because those guys were just so bad, and it got to I was trying to. It's one of those ones where you probably need to be aggressive right at the start to establish dominance of like, hey, don't fuck with me. Whereas I was more in of a like, just leave me alone type of mood, which of course they think like, oh, easy prey or something. So now we can like really fuck with this guy. So it got to the point where where I like told one of them like, don't you need to leave now. I don't think I threatened him with violence, but there was certainly the undertone of like, you need to leave now. Um, and thankfully that got through to them, and they left. Um, Helped being physically bigger than them because they were still like on the 13 to 14-year-old side of things.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, that anger is kind of that's probably one of the things that's stayed with me a little bit. Um, it pops up every now and then, so it's not like an all-consuming thing that I feel all the time or anything like that. But it's certainly hung around much longer than I would have perhaps expected. Um, and that's, I guess, probably delving into the spiritual side of things because uh, I haven't really found a like gratitude in mum's passing. Um, I view the whole event has been purely I guess like a negative thing. Uh, so yeah, that's one where I go, yeah, maybe I probably need to investigate that a little bit more, or try and figure out what's kind of beneath that.
Right. Well, it's funny you bring up anger because that's like a part of the grieving stages, right?
Mm, mm,
And So I have them up right here. There's denial, there's anger, there's bargaining, there's depression, and then there's acceptance.
Yeah.
And so, I
So
mean, from speaking for myself, I would say like I would replace the word denial for shock.
yep.
Like I knew he was dead. I'm not denying that he's dead the morning of, but it was definitely shocking that first month. And I was certainly angry for like a few months. For my own journey, I could sort of see like a linear path. And then as we're in these current summer months of 2025, I've been sort of going back and forth, sort of like a hopscotching around these different stages. But the large majority of this past year has been somewhat linear. Um, and maybe for some reason, a part of me, like I sort of, when I'm reading this, I sort of equate acceptance with gratitude. So maybe somewhere like I've been able to accept it sooner while I'm also feeling angry, while I'm also trying to bargain with things. Um, and maybe like, it sounds like anger is like that similar thing where like you might feel bargaining, or maybe there's a day when you feel acceptance, but then you're still angry, so that's very interesting.
Mm. I read the book where that came from. I think it's called On Grief and Grieving, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross maybe, and someone else.
Is it bullshit? Is it a lie? Was
No.
she a Nazi?
I don't think it was that bad, no. It's look, it's a qualitative description. It's not something quantitative, so you can't go, "Alright, this person has gone through X amount units of denial. Now they're on to X amount units of anger," or something like that.
Right.
The whole thing was, it was meant to be viewed more as a framework, I think.
Yeah.
More as, yeah, it was kind of like a therapy slash understanding. It's more on the along the line. It's a more honestly, it's more of a spiritual book than it is a uh, perhaps a medical type book. Um,
Interesting.
it's more descriptive in terms of, hey, these are some of the things that you might experience, and they themselves say like, yeah, these are commonalities that we've noticed. And I believe she was a um, what was she in particular? Certainly something to do with like hospice care, and the other author I think had perhaps a bit of a um, Zen type background or something like that, if I recall correctly. And they were just saying like, look, here's some commonalities we've noticed. Here's the five stages. They're not necessarily linear, although this is the common pattern that they go through. You might spend one stay it be in one stage much longer. It was also a book to kind of help people who were perhaps friends of someone who had someone pass to understand where they might be, what they might be experiencing. So it's certainly more just a like a little tool in the tool chest to help use for either yourself or for other people. And yeah, it's I think it's decent enough. Like I'd say there was periods where I would say, yeah, you know what, I was kind of in the bargaining stage, and for me, for example, a lot of this happened before she actually passed away. So
Mm.
because it was so obvious it was coming in so many years in advance, I remember thinking things along the lines of like, oh yeah, if there was a big red button that I could press that would, kill off all of humanity or something like that, but mum would be alive, be not alive again. She was still alive, but be healthy. I'd press the button. That's kind of like bargaining. Depression. Yeah, that's probably why I wanted to go to Brazil. There was just such a feeling of malaise of that I was going nowhere, doing nothing, and not enjoying myself. That's probably along those lines. Acceptance, here we are both talking about it. We're not bursting out into tears. We're not trying to avoid what happened. So I'd say we're probably both along that sort of lines in terms of where we're at. But it's a it was an okay book to read, and I think those five stages can be useful in a sense. But there's probably other, like you said, you'd maybe replace shock for denial and gratitude for acceptance. Those are those seem reasonable to me to say. Yeah, you can experience other things as well. Perhaps
Yeah, man.
perhaps even hatred instead of anger if it was your loved one passed from being hit by a drunk driver or from a,
Yeah.
you know, accidental manslaughter or some sort of death.
Yeah. Anger's interesting because, like, I remember feeling angry, but I wasn't like I wasn't angry at anyone. It was more like an aggression. I just felt, like, aggressive, and I just
Mm,
wanted to, like, get shit done. Like, I wanted to, like, I was ready to fight anyone. If someone wanted to fight me, like, if one of my so I was working at a restaurant at the time as a prep cook, and, like, I was in this mood of, like, if any of my bosses tell me I'm not doing a good job, like, I swear to God, I'm gonna punch him, I'm gonna walk out, and just like, "You're gonna have to sue me. You're gonna, like, fuck you. Like, you're gonna I don't care." And I would do this thing in, like, in the morning, like, "Ugh, I just wanna get my shit done today, dude."
yeah,
I'll
yeah.
try to I'll try to hype myself up to have, like, a good day at work, but then I'm, like, imagining just, like, punching somebody.
Yeah.
It's very it's very yin yang thing in my head,
Oh,
dark and
yeah.
light at the same time.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
I've felt similar things.
it's funny how you can feel that, right? Because it's like you're not because I was always raised to not be that, to not be the aggressive guy, to not, be like because I have 2 younger sisters, so it was always like, "Cole, be
Mhm,
gentle with your sisters, be gentle with your sisters." And it was just it's an emotion that I wasn't used to, or like it's an emotion that maybe I would have only had experienced in private when like I think about something that I think is like injustice or something, and not something that literally affects my entire life. But now I'm feeling this aggressive feeling because my life has changed in such a dramatic way, and I don't care who's in front of me. Like, just like I'm gonna bulldoze you right now.
mm. You know, the things that I was just reflecting upon then was I've had, like, all of these moments. Obviously, you spend most of your time alone and in your own head sort of deal, and, if in just terms about, like, thinking about things, you spend more time thinking than you actually do speaking. But
Yep.
some of the, like, the probably most helpful moments have actually just been speaking with some friends. So, uh, there was and it's kind of hard to get these moments. Maybe it was like you with your friend where you have to create a moment that's a bit more unique, or certainly not in the normal day-to-day life sort of things. I see Juan every weekend for the podcast. There's my co-host on the Mere Mortals, and talking about mum is just not going to be something that regularly comes up because we're talking about other things. We're talking about more like logistics or whatever,
Mhm.
whatever's going on else in our lives. But there's moments you can have where you're in a unique situation. Two that come to mind for me were when I was in Brazil. Basically, so mum passed. I was here a month for the until the funeral, and then or memorial service, I should say, and then I went back to Brazil, and then I had this. Um, Geez, how long was the car trip? It was about like I think it was probably up close to 15 hours driving over 2 days with my friend Lucas. And so, there's a lot of time to talk about things with someone over a 15-hour car trip. And talking, the first half of it, the first to our destination, we didn't talk that much, but on the way back, yeah, there was a bit where I was talking about my mom, and then he opened up a little bit about how he was experiencing similar things when his grandfather died. Um, Another one more recently was when I was in Athens with another good friend of mine, Joey, and we're on a rooftop and we're looking at the Parthenon, the Acropolis, and it's right there in front of us. It was stunningly how big it is and how close, and it was this real feeling of just like, holy shit, I'm in ancient Greece at the moment. I'm in Greece, but when that's all you can see, the Parthenon, you're like, oh, I'm in ancient Greece, and we're
That's
just
cool.
we're just on the rooftop. We're having maybe one or two drinks, got some music playing, and it just hit me that, oh man, this is the exact sort of place I would have loved to have traveled with my mom. Neither my brother nor my dad were big kind of travelers. I love traveling, and this was something that if she had been alive and well, this is 100% something we would have done together, and it would have been an amazing moment. It would have been amazing bonding. all those sorts of things. And that was probably one of the first times I really went like, fuck, I'm really, really, because when they pass, I guess you're you're sorrowful of, I guess, the what was or what is, I guess. And that was a moment where I'm like, oh, this is what could have been. I could have been here with her. And I kind of talked with Joey about that in the moment and shared that, and he was really supportive of it, and just more listening than anything. Uh, and then right at towards the end, we were talking about obviously traveling with mom, and I was saying like, oh yeah, no, we did get to do a little bit here and there. One of the first things we did when she got diagnosed was she said she wanted to visit Ayers Rock in Australia, Uluru, and so we did that, and to go through to Ayers Rock, which is in like right in the center of Australia. Normally, you'll have to fly into Alice Springs, which is the one of the bigger towns nearby there, and then go to there. And Alice Springs is a bit of a shithole. It's a lot of a shithole, in fact. Just out in the middle of nowhere. They've got a lot of the Aboriginals there have this kind of real hard time mixing with this, I guess, Australian culture, especially. It's kind of like, I guess, the Native Americans with alcohol, especially. Like, it's not good for their systems. They can't handle it, kind of like the Europeans
Right.
can, European heritage. And so, there's a lot of social problems there. And it's just in the middle of nowhere, man. Like, it's not a nice place. And we'd been talking about that about a week earlier. And so he's like, wait. So your mom gets diagnosed with like, this awful degenerative disease. And so your first thing to do is to take her to the worst place on earth. And then we just start losing our shit and laughing. And he really turned this moment that could have been a purely negative experience of, here I am looking at the Parthenon and moping about what could have been. And he really flipped it on its head into one of the funniest things I've heard in like ages. And I think having moments like that as well, where you can share it with other people, even if they are going to struggle to perhaps, understand if they've never had a loved one pass, or I think just sharing things and not looking forward for any kind of conclusion or resolution or uh, help or guidance or advice. Just simply sharing it in those moments. I look back now and I go like, oh, that was really beneficial. That was probably more helpful than any amount of like journaling or inner work or any sort of stuff that I could have done. Was, yeah, just simply sharing that with someone, but not like placing the burden on them either. Just simply like, this is what happened. This is what I'm feeling at the time. Yeah. Do you have any moments like that?
Yes and no. For a few friends of mine, they seem to be really sympathetic for me, and they're willing to just like listen to me.
Hmm.
And but I think at the same time, I have maybe I've failed in some relationships where hello cat. Um, m- I feel like in some relationships I failed where I might have put a burden of wanting someone to help me with closure or to help me with something, with some sort of nurturing thing. But then like judging them for not providing that, or judging them for not being whatever I think they should be. And so like just hearing you say that, it's like, yeah, I just need to drop my expectations sometimes for some people. But then like that like hurts me, like that like hurts my heart. It's like because I want certain people in my life to be that, or like to have some sort of instinct to just like to know exactly what I need, and maybe that's just like me crying out for myself, or me just like not opening up to, oh, just generally not opening up enough to allow that person to give me what they're able to give me. I'm sort of, I feel like in the last year I've judged a few people in my life where it's like you're not doing enough for me. And but then like I'm just being quiet, or like I don't really want to share what's going on. I just want to like internalize it. I want to figure it out for myself, which is low key like a story throughout my whole life, like just trying to figure things out on my own, like sort of listening to people's advice, but also being disappointed by different leaders as I was growing up and realizing that maybe a lot of people don't really know what the fuck they're talking about when they're talking to me.
Sure, sure.
And maybe I just need to figure it out on my own. And so I, yeah, man, it's very interesting. I'm sort of having like a humbling moment right now, just because it's like I feel justified in the judgment, but then I know that the judgment is no good. But then there's this like pragmatic side of it. It's like, what do I need? You know, and like what I need is not being provided for right now. Um, so it's very interesting that I'm very happy that you had that experience. I had that experience with a few friends at work at the restaurant where they were, they're just like, one of them was Christian, one of them wasn't really, but he was like very empathetic, very compassionate, and so like those two guys were able to just like just let me talk and just like hear me out, listen to me when I have like a funny story, to share about my dad because my dad has like a gazillion funny stories that I'm like trying to like remember. I'm trying to like remember like how to tell it the way that he would tell it,
Mm.
and just trying to make sure that like I say it in a way that puts him in like a funny light and like a good light. And so they were very helpful with that. But then I also think you also see a lot of people's immaturity when it comes to this thing, and not in a judgmental way, but it's just sort of there. You sort of see like who's able to walk up and show up without even asking, just like just being just being empathetic or being vocal about being present with you. Some people just were not that, and you're able to see that. I'm not sure what you experienced, but that's and I'm certainly not even trying to like throw anyone under the bus, just like this is just what death is, or I'm sort of interpreting as like when these giant life things happen, some people aren't preparing themselves for that, or some people are not ready to experience that with you. And it's your individual journey to experience that because I certainly feel more prepared. Like if there's someone in my life who loses somebody, I definitely have that side of me now. It's like, well, I definitely know how to talk to them, or at least I think I do. I'm not going to try to hover over them, but I'm certainly going to I feel like I have the words, I feel like I have the wisdom to at least to have some sort of a positive impact in that person's life. I'm assuming, but maybe not.
It's a tough, tricky ground that I think you gotta just test out for yourself. For myself, for example, I think trying to just be as open right at the start as possible. So, for example, you ask someone how their day is going. Almost always, you'll just hear, "Yeah, good," and they could be having the worst day of their life, and they'll still say that. Um, I try not to say, "Oh, yeah, you know what? I had a crappy moment. Um, Today I'm feeling super tired and just like baked today. I don't want to do anything, etc., etc." And I was kind of thinking, yeah, you know what? There was some moments where I'd perhaps mention like, oh, my mum passed last year or something like this, and sometimes I would do it in the sense of it was the right moment to bring up in a conversation, and then other times I'd noticed I was doing it because perhaps it was a way of forcing a connection with someone or something like that, and you can do it the opposite ways as well, where you'll bring it up with someone and they're obviously not in a place where they want to talk about that. Perhaps death is discomfort uncomfortable to them. Perhaps talking with you about serious things is uncomfortable, and you find that with some friends, uh, they'll give you what you were expecting, perhaps what you want, and then others won't, and then random strangers can be vice versa as well. One thing I noticed once, probably 2 years ago, it was when I was much more deeper into the kind of podcasts, and I was trying to make them more of a serious gig, as a job than perhaps they are for myself now. And I remember there was some moments where this was before I'd ever talked about mum's illness, and I was thinking of bringing it up on the podcast or talking about it, and uh, I realized like, oh, you know what? The probable reason I'd probably be doing that, gross as it is, would be for kind of engagement. And you can see people do that where they will bring up stuff, talk about things, probably more for the reason of wanting to gain an audience or a following or a reaction rather than because it's something they think is helpful or valuable or it's what they actually want to do, you know? And so I didn't at the time, and I'm very glad and thankful that I didn't. And it was only when mum's illness was getting really bad that it was actually impacting the podcast, where I had to put up like a little mini explanation saying like, "Hey, I just need to stop for a while." Like, and there's the reason why. So
Yeah, I just stopped, dude. I just stopped making podcasts. I'm not gonna do any announcement. I just like, like, because I was in the same boat you were. I was like, I'm not gonna do this for content. Like, there's no way. I need to like just take my time with it, and maybe I'll be open about it. But me being open about it will just be that. I just feel like being open about it, and that'll just be from my own internal, like wanting to express myself, not from a place of content or wanting attention. Like I just need to get this out, and maybe it will help somebody.
yeah, sure, sure. And similar thing, if the file got corrupted for this, it was still immensely valuable chatting with you, and I'm glad we did. Hopefully, hopefully it doesn't. And but it's kind of that expectation and learning what how other people will react to you bringing up these things as well. Takes a bit of I guess like nuance and testing out the waters as well. I would say, as my dad was the closest to my mom, he was looking after her the most in the whole period. She couldn't drive. So she was very reliant on him or myself and my brother for driving. And then especially like the last 9 months, he was the one spending the most care for her. And then when she eventually needed to go to the hospital, was visiting her a lot there as well. And I haven't really, I would say, had a deep conversation with him about everything that happened. Not for lack of trying. It's just he doesn't particularly want to. I don't think so, and that's okay. That's uh, one of those things I'll still bring up every now and then. 3 months afterwards, 6 months afterwards, a year later, because you don't want to be one of those people who are or have a friend who's kind of suffering in silence, and it's from lack of effort on your part that you're not a friend or loved one who's suffering in silence, and just because you haven't tried to reach out, that's all you can do, reach out and
Oh.
see.
Yeah. Do you think maybe you gotta put your dad in a new scenario? Maybe you should go on a 20-hour drive with him.
Yeah, yeah. Oh god, we'd probably, well, that'd be unfortunate because I think we'd both go insane and drive off a cliff, and so then my brother would have a lot to deal with. Uh, yeah, and look, there have been like I have tried that as well, so it's
Yeah.
not the um uh real. Yeah, I suppose I could go even further.
Yeah, you don't have to. Yeah, I'm not trying to pry anything out of you, but that's just
Yeah, yeah,
interesting.
no, no, it's worth doing as well, and perhaps they won't even want to do a new situation with you because it could lead to something like that. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, spending time with people is all you can do in those sorts of situations,
Yeah.
um, and maybe he's not as deeply affected. Maybe um, he has gotten over it emotionally in his own way. You know, uh, that's the other thing they were saying in that book on grief and grieving. Don't try and force things onto people that you think they should be feeling. If someone has a husband pass away unexpectedly and they're kind of just normal, they're not deeply in shock, they're not crying every day, they're not experiencing what you think they should be showing in terms of grief or grieving, that's more on you rather than on them. So
Yeah.
that's another thing to think about. Yeah.
Yeah. Luckily, my mom has been pretty adamant about taking trips and like doing things with the family, going to like a new place. Um, so every year before there was like any diagnosis, my parents were always going. They had this group of friends, and they would always drive down to Mexico. It's like a 4-hour drive to this town called Rocky Point, and really fun area. Pretty low key vibes. Just some nice hotels and resorts, and you just sort of when you live in Southern Arizona, you're probably going to Mexico for like a little mini vacay. And so for like 4 years, it's pretty consistent, them going either once a year or twice a year. Um, and after he died, the trip was always in October. And so after he died, it was always like, all right, like, are we going to Mexico? Like, are we really going to go to Mexico? Like, I guess like we sort of like we should, but like I don't really want to because like in Mexico, that's like the party vibe. We're still drinking, we're in the pool, we're at the beach, there's jet skis on the beach for like $20 for like 30 minutes. Like you're able to have fun, but it's like wow, like this is not the same. But still, being in Mexico, being in that new environment, I was still able to just like go. It was like a certain phase, like okay, like I've been on a trip without my dad, you know, and that was like a nice thing because it was familiar and it was with other family friends and my mom was also. But before he died, that he went to. So my parents were a part of this. Um, their business would donate to this like community youth sports thing. I'm not even sure how to describe it, but this organization would put on child sports like soccer, baseball, all these like little kid sports, and they would get the money from local businesses. And they would always do an annual gala with all these businesses and all the donors, and it was always just like a fun thing. And there would always be this auction. And the year that he died, I think this thing happened like it was a while. I think it might have been like January or February before he died. They had like themes, or like every table had a theme, and my dad goes as Chemo Ken, and my mom goes as as Nurse Barbie. And so like he's sort of just like taking on that. But at the auction, during the auction portion, my dad bid on a weekend cabin in northern Arizona, which is a really nice area, really nice trees. It snows up in northern Arizona. And he just thought it would be like a nice thing to do. He wasn't sure when we would do it, but he wanted to do it. And after he died, one conversation was like, my mom said, we still have that cabin up north. And it was sort of like, it- I think that's where one aspect of gratitude comes from for me is like wow, I'm so thankful my dad had like the foresight to give us some sort of peaceful environment to go to, even though like he didn't plan on us going there after he dies. But like just like thank you, dad, for like getting this cabin for us, like because it was a real transaction. Like thank you for getting this for us. um and I remember that trip was really good for me as well, because that was when the fires in Los Angeles were happening, and I'm like, I'm getting the fuck out of here right now. And I'm in this like really nice peaceful environment. It's really chilly. It's really cold up there, and just like you're going from like SoCal to northern Arizona. Just it's a completely different environment. Like you're in the mountains. You're at higher elevation. You're cold, and you're able to just be there. And it's like, and you get this whole environment. You have like the fireplace, and you got the chilly thing, and you got a movie on, and you got it's a whole vibe. And it's very healing. Like going to different putting yourself in a new environment is very healing when it comes to this grieving thing. That's what I've realized, and I've certainly realized that with like other jobs as well. I've done my best to look for a better job, something that I felt was just more, I'm not sure if fulfilling is the right word, but just not stressing me out, because the kitchen was stressful. I just I don't want my workplace to stress me out. I'm not sure how other people feel about that. Some people like to be stressed, I think, but
I
I
hate it. I do everything in my power to avoid stress in my life.
Yeah, man. But now I have a new job, which is really chill, like one of the chillest jobs I've ever had. And I'm just happy I'm in that new environment. And I'm happy that I can like, just I can sort of move forward and I can I can feel comfortable where I'm at. Like I right now I don't feel trapped, you know. I don't feel trapped and I think somewhere within this past year I did feel trapped.
Yeah, yeah. And you think that was kind of trapped in the sense of location or in your thinking, your mindset? What in particular?
I mean, it's a combination of a lot of things like trapped in the sense that I no longer have like an out. Like my dad was my out when it came to information about the car or when it came to like if I was low on money, because LA is just like super expensive and my job wasn't providing a lot of money and I'm doing my best to find a better job and it's like I still can't find a new job but I need my dad to help me out with certain bills and it's like I don't have that anymore. So like I sort of felt trapped beforehand. Um, and I sort of felt trapped after he died because it's like, damn, like now I don't have that anymore. Um, Now I need to figure out my own way. Like I'm in my own little escape room right now. And I gotta I gotta figure out the puzzle. And I also felt trapped. So like so finances comes to mind, the job comes to mind with being trapped. And I low key want to get out of this apartment, just because I've been here for like 8 years. And I just want a new apartment. I would like to build myself up. It's either because right now in my life, I'm either gonna move back to Arizona or I'm gonna make enough money to move to a better apartment. That's sort of where I'm at. And I'm like, I really want to go to a new apartment. I really want to make it. Like, I don't want to. I feel like if I moved back to Arizona, it'd be justified with everything going on, but like I wouldn't feel good about myself. And like I want to make it better for myself. And I want to just double down on my effort. And my dad gave me a good work ethic. And like my dad didn't teach me to be a victim. My dad didn't teach me to give up. My dad always believed in me. My dad told me to chase my dreams. My dad told me to just do your best. And so, like, that's where I'm at right now. Like, I don't feel trapped because I know that I'm able to do my best. And so, like, that's like, I'm in the middle of that right now.
Sure. I'm a big believer in a change of location really having a mindset shift as well. The Probably one of the reasons I like traveling so much is because it can allow you to do that. But even things like moving apartment as well. I've been thinking about moving as well, and I think that would be a helpful switch into perhaps a bit of a new stage of my life, or certainly help me with some of the goals that I'm looking to achieve. It would literally be 5 or 10 minutes down the road, but it it would be enough to create a bit of a mentality switch in my own head. So I'm a pretty big believer in doing that up, especially with your physical locations of like where you're staying and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I would love to live by the beach. My goal is to live in Santa Monica. Rent out there is insane. Rent out there is like straight up double, a little more than double what I'm paying now. So if I want to do that, I got to figure that out. Like that's not going to come easy because everyone who lives in Santa Monica, they have like tech jobs, they have like silly influencer jobs. You know what I mean? And um so that's my goal, like in my head, like that's when I know like I've made it in my head. It's like if I'm living in Santa Monica, I've gotten through it. Like I've figured it out on some level.
Gotta
Um
gotta gotta get that raw milk influencer money, man.
I know, dude, and there's not a lot of money in raw milk. There's not a lot of money, dude. Um, yeah, and I'm trying to do the influencer thing pisses me off too because it's like I don't even know how to do it, but I know some people who are making really good money from it. Like, how do you do this? How do you make a meme that makes money?
Yeah, yeah. No,
It's crazy.
yeah, I feel there's a lot of opportunity out there at the same time as well. There's it- obviously the commonality is the being able to work hard, but
Yeah,
um, I'm very excited about the future in terms of just what internet, what what things like crypto, Bitcoin, all that.
Oh, wow.
I think it just opens up the world for more opportunities than there was before. Like the fact that influencer is a job that people can make money from being pretty or being funny or being interesting or
Yeah.
whatever, being entertaining. That's just wild. That's so crazy.
Yeah, man. I think I might struggle with doing like the influence thing because I'm so like I think I am cycling through like a depression right now. Like I sometimes I don't feel like creating. Like even when it comes to like I pay for this AI clipping thing. I don't even have to do any fucking work, but I don't want to post what the AI clips. Like I could literally just push a button, but like I don't want to do that for some reason. And so like I gotta work through that. You know, that's like another hump when it comes to me posting more and talking to more people on the podcast and trying to figure out just different streams of income and just like doubling down on my creativity. That's really what I want to do. And
Yeah,
so
I wouldn't suggest, just from the bit that I do know you, I wouldn't suggest that influence is the way to go. But there's all sorts of opportunities in terms of you know here's a more like a perhaps even a vlog style. Like this is what it's like trying to create a new movie. This
yes,
is uh, yeah. Influencer as a job is probably going to go away pretty soon. Anyway, the AI influencers are coming, and
yeah, you're
the
probably
real
right.
life the real life ones are going to struggle. So it's finding about, like, what's the even more human uh aspect that you could show, or things like
Mm,
that are valuable to people as well. So you know
mm,
uh I enjoy listening into your like certainly some of your podcasts, not all of them. Some episodes I'm just like, that's like, I don't care about politics, for example, so I'm not
yeah,
going to tune into the political ones. But there's certainly enough things that are out there that and even who knows, maybe it's like, this is what it's like working in a shitty kitchen. can be can be interesting and valuable to people,
yeah,
if you're wanting to go the route of certainly like making an income or a job or a lifestyle from the from an audience, because
yeah,
you don't have to do that either. You can do it from investing. You can do it from manual labor. You can do it from myriad of all the jobs that are out there.
yeah. I think my larger point was like I don't feel trapped because of that opportunity. Like I feel that like that opportunity is there, and I agree
Mm,
with you that crypto and Bitcoin are like an opportunity to invest in, and like that's another way to build yourself up. And being online and posting online is an opportunity for myself. Like I don't feel trapped because of lack of opportunity, you know. And I just need to double down on that.
yeah, yeah, 100%, man. I'm gonna be here for the journey. Keen to see it.
Hell yeah, dude. We've been talking for over an hour, man. What else is on your mind with this grieving stuff, dude? Do you have to leave soon, or what's that like for?
Uh, no, not particularly. I'd say that's most of the things that come to mind. Yeah, yeah. I miss mum, but it's not a daily sort of thing. Like I said, the 1 year mark, I think, is a good, like, reflection point of just going, oh yeah, lots changed. And probably the last 3 months are more steady. Well, I was traveling, I guess, so that. Well, but I was traveling before that as well. Yeah, I'd say like the last 3 months have just been a lot more steady in terms of my temperament and how I think about her, and the whole process of death, even
Yeah.
as compared to the 9 months before that, was much more up in the air. I guess for me, I'm at what, 1 May, June, July, August. So yeah, I'm like 1 year and 3 months. So 3 months ahead of you in that
Mhm.
term. But yeah, how about you?
Um, did you bury your mom or was she cremated?
She was cremated, and we uh did a kind of ceremonial burying of her ashes in New Zealand, where
Mm,
she was from. Um, and so she was, I guess, buried next to her mum and dad in New Zealand. So
uh,
that was nice, but also I wouldn't say that was highly impactful for me. I think that's more of a ceremonial thing, and uh, uh, yeah, I'm not one much for ceremonies. For example, like I didn't I didn't want to go to my own graduation when I graduated from university, but my
Classic.
mum my parents kind of like forced me to. So yeah, I'm not not one much for ceremony, so that didn't make that big of an impact for me.
Yeah. Yeah, my dad got cremated too. Luckily, they had all that planned out. And it was weird, dude. Like, we went to the freaking funeral home that day, and it was, like, weird, dude. It was
Oh
weird.
wow,
Dude, it
yeah,
was
no,
weird, dude.
um, I guess because mom was in a hospital, they have to do a like an autopsy or something for cause of death.
Yeah.
So for her, it was much more of like a longer process, and my dad had organized all of that already. So
Yeah.
um, I didn't. That's probably one thing to we could chat about was I didn't see her dead body,
Mm,
which I'm rather grateful for. I don't think I would handle that so well.
mm,
It's kind of like not kind of like when I think of when I was a young teenager exploring the internet, and then you find your way onto the gore sites and things like that, and you see one or two videos, and you're like, "Wow, that's so fucked up. I don't need. I,
yeah.
I'm not interested in seeing more of this." Uh,
Here's a
and
ISIS beheading video when
yeah,
you're in the
yeah,
8th grade.
yep, yep,
I know what you're talking about, dude. I know exactly what you're talking about.
yep. And there's been one or two things in real life. So when I was in Mexico with my friends Juan and Joey, we came across a crime scene where some people had been, I believe it was one or two people had been killed in a taxi, shot in Cancun, and I don't even recall seeing the dead bodies. I barely even recall that instance. But Juan and Joey were like, "Dude, we were standing right in front of it. We could we got to because it happened like 20 minutes after we were
Juan has
in
a
that area."
selfie.
Yeah, right, right. So when it comes to, I guess, chaos, mayhem, gore, those sort of things, I don't like seeing that in real life in front of me. So I think seeing Mum's dead body would have. I don't think that would have been a good thing to see for myself. But I mean, you were. It sounds like you were right there. You saw your
Dude,
dad.
it was
Yeah.
ground zero, dude. Imagine, yeah, dude, ground zero, dude. It was crazy. Um, to be looking at the bed, you know, like to be looking at the bed, and that's where he's at. Like, it's just dramatically surreal, dramatically surreal. And it was so early in the morning, so like you're still like in a haze, and like it's happening, and so like here's like the sequence of what happened, right? So my mom, she wakes up in the middle of the night, right? And she just like suddenly wakes up. Like nothing woke her up. She just suddenly wakes up and she realizes that my dad's not breathing. And she would always like throughout the last week, she would like put her hand on his chest to make sure that he's breathing. And then, she realizes he's not breathing, but he's still warm. He's like as warm can be. And like she sort of realizes like it literally like something happened, like just right then, like he's gone. And so she has her small moment and she closes his eyes and she immediately comes to me and I'm in the front room. I'm in the guest room and she sort of just like wakes me up, honey, honey, it's time like dad's died, papa's passed. And I'm like, okay. And I sort of like held my mom's hand for a second. I was like, okay, 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 hang on, hang on. And I held her hand because it was like I knew that she needed someone to hold her hand, but I was also like, let me wake up for a second. Hang on. Okay. Okay. I was sort of just like, give me a second, mom. And then I go to I go to my youngest sister's room, and then I tell her, I sort of whisper to her, and I wake her up, like, hey, it's time. And then my as like my sister's coming out of her room, my grandma was like in the bathroom, and she's coming out of the bathroom, and like we're like, hey, grandma, like, hey, it's happened. And she's like, okay, 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 okay. And then I go to my other sister, and she's sleeping with her little kid with her he's 5 at the time, or yeah, 5. And the first thing that my sister says is like, "What am I gonna tell Wyatt?" And so I was like sitting right there with her and just like trying to like figure out like what is she supposed to tell her son in this moment. It's so early in the day. Like, are we supposed to wake him up right now? He's not going to wake up. Is he even going to realize what's going on right now? And so it's like that's such a wild thing to that it's a crazy conversation to have with your sister, you know? Um and then we all just like had a moment together, and like we're crying, of course, but like I said earlier, it was like, because it was so early in the morning, there was a peace. And it's just like sort of just like I don't want to say you're going through the motions, but like y- at least I was able to accept like this is how this moment should be. This moment. This is correct. This moment is correct. There's nothing out of line right now. And so, we did our prayers, and I had a small moment to myself in the backyard. I did like a little voice audio recording to myself. Um, just like, for my own thing, just to get my mind there, or just to record where I was at right then. And, and then we had a small moment with my nephew. He's like still like, like he's asleep, but like he's sort of there. And then it was like a waiting game of like waiting for, I forget who was supposed to come there. I think it was like the hospice. It was hospice who was like gonna like take his body. And and I have all the respect in the world for hospice people, dude. Those hospice folks are super brave. Like they're really like there are some different people in this world. And like hospice people, like they're sort of like their job is to like just their job is to give you instruction how to do things properly in the final days of a person's life. Like that's a crazy responsibility to have. And they're supposed to just like calm you down somehow by giving you procedures, but like the procedures aren't really helping at all. I mean, they're sort of helping, but like they're not really solving any problem. You know what I mean? Just weird thing. And so the hospice people came and they confirmed his death, and then like they took his body to the funeral home, and then like at like 10 a.m. that day, we go to the funeral home. And we're in a room of, it's like, um, imagine, um, like animal heads, like deer heads and bear heads. Like imagine like that kind of a room, but it's like caskets and options of urns. Like you got a lot of options of caskets and urns around you. And it's just like everything seems a little like super luxurious, and there's like price tags on these things, and some of them are really respectful, and some of them are like, I would never put my dad in that. Like you're sort of looking at how tacky some of these things are. And we're like picking out the color of the urn, and then we're like picking out the font. Like that was the most fucked up thing of the whole thing. Like I gotta pick the font of this thing. Like that's so stupid. Can that just be AI, please? Oh my god. Yeah, dude. Like pick the worst font ever. But we picked a nice font. And this guy, so here's the funny part of that moment. The guy helping us, there was 2 people, there was a man and a woman. The man, super respectful, like, and these people are very nice to you. They have to be. But this guy, he had like, uh, I'm not sure what they call it, like facial tics, I guess. And so like he's doing like these he's making like bubbles with his cheeks, and he's like doing like weird things with his eyebrows. He's like, "So what kind of have you given any thought to the font on the urn?" And like it's just like this like insanely almost comical situation happening. You have to pick the font while this guy is just like his neurotic self. Like this is it could be like a Larry David show, like Curb Your Enthusiasm. Like that's what I almost felt like I was in. Everyone's super nice, but everyone is so weird. So very strange experience, dude. I forgot what the point of that was, but I think, yeah, I saw the dead body, and I saw them wheel him away, and, it's, I maybe this is morbid to say, but I have, like, 2 photographs of the moments, um, I'm not gonna like ponder on those photographs at all, but like, I don't know, I just felt like I had to take them. Like this is the final photo, you know? Um, and it wasn't like a close up, I try to make it poetic or something, you know? Yeah. Um, something my dad would like, you know? A photo my father would like. Um, I remember that morning, the good thing about that morning was, a part of the peacefulness was my mom and my grandma were able to, like, talk, and I remember, like, laughter, you know? And it wasn't, like, fake laughter. It was like they were having, like, a real conversation, and someone said something funny, and they're sitting right there next to him, and we all know that, and that was a very impactful and surreal thing, to both see my grandma cry for her son, and then to also hear her laugh a couple hours later. Um, that's a human experience. Like, that's like, I don't have the words for that, but that is the human experience.
That's intense, man. Yeah, wow.
It's crazy, dude. I wish, like, I wanna make a movie about that, but, like, I don't know how compelling that would be. Like, it's just my life.
Yeah. No, but that's the interesting moments, man. That's the observations and small things like that.
Yeah, man. And then we had okay, this is what I was gonna say. Here's the real story that I was gonna say. So he got cremated, and we had a celebration of life. I'm not sure if that's like a thing in Australia.
Yeah, yeah. We as mum's memorial service was more of a reflection and a lighter side rather than like the tone was not meant to be overly heavy. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, good. And that was the same thing with us. So we had the celebration of life in our backyard, which is another weird thing to plan for a party. To plan for, and we treated it like a party. Like, okay, this is where we're gonna have the tacos here, the chips are gonna be here, the sauce is gonna be there, we're gonna have the drinks right here, people are gonna come in this direction, we're gonna have a porter potty that's coming in at 3 p.m. Like, you're doing like logistics.
Yeah.
And a lot of people showed up, and I was really grateful to see that, to see those people, even though I didn't know all of them, because like some of them were like from my dad's childhood, and I'm like sort of just getting to know these people from my from when my dad was a kid. And then there's like some other people who knew me as a baby, but like we hadn't seen each other in 28 years. So it's like, yeah, they're like, "Cool, you're so big now." And I'm like, "I've never seen you in my life."
Yeah. Who are you?
Yeah. But thank you for being here. Thank you for knowing my dad. Um, and just so many different types of people from so many different eras. That's sort of how I saw it. There's so many eras in my dad's life that were present during the
That was the
celebration.
same with my mom. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like you get to see these different eras. It's like, wow, you're all so old. And I will be old too one day, like that's gonna be me. Like, I'm the young guy. Like, I'm the son in this scenario, but like one day I will be that friend. I will be that, you know, whoever I am, whatever role I have, I will be in that older position. And so just to see, to experience this thing at this age, at this stage of my life, like that's, I don't know, man. It's just very interesting. I wish I had poetic things to say about it. It's interesting and it's impactful and it's so intense.
That's life, isn't it? That's
Yeah, man. Super duper life.
life and death. Life and death. Yeah.
Life and death. But I'm grateful I saw his body because I think that's a part of closure. I think sometimes they say that like an open casket funeral can bring closure. That happened with a great grandmother of mine. I was never close with her, but I remember like that was being told to me as a little kid. Like, we're gonna do an open casket, like I remember like hearing like people like above me saying like, okay, well, they do say it brings closure. So it's like I have that vague memory of seeing my great grandmother's body as well, and so maybe I wasn't that afraid to see my dad's because I did have that moment when I was younger. Um,
Sure.
but I've never been a fan of burying, like burying a body. Like, I think burying an urn is different. Like, I could definitely handle burying an urn. I would not want to bury a body. That just sounds That just sounds sad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my brother and I walked. He wanted to play Pokemon Go, so we started walking
On the way
around
to
our
the
neighborhood.
burial site?
Well, there was a he asked me like, "What's this big green patch over here?" And I was like, "Well, that's the cemetery we drive past almost every day."
Wow.
He never noticed it, and so we ended up just walking around it. And I did something similar when I was in Montreal. Went up to like the top of Montreal, the mountain, I guess,
And
the
you
big
caught
hill.
you?
Well, so I wasn't playing pogo at in Montreal, but no, I don't think he even got any shinies, which is so very
Damn.
disappointing. Don't go to the cemetery if you wanna catch a good Pokemon. But it was yeah, I also agree. It's just rather a strange place, you know. There's a lot of space, no one there.
Yeah.
Uh, a lot of many of these bodies were buried 80 years ago. Bodies, people were buried that long ago, and it's just like we were asking each other, like, what happens to because there wasn't that much space there anymore. Does this land eventually just get taken over? Because you can't just keep having this tremendous amount of space being taken up by people who don't even have a connection. It's people's like great grandfathers or grandmothers. They don't know any of these people.
Mhm.
Uh, what eventually happens with that? I imagine that land just gets reclaimed at some point, and they move the bodies on? Do they? I have no idea.
I think they might. I know there's a cemetery in San Diego, California, where it's actually like some like old Western cemetery. And like this, it's declared like some sort of memorial site. It's like the city has sanctioned it to like,
Mm,
we're not gonna touch this because of the historical relevance of it or something like that.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and it's
I mean,
weird.
there's many of them. In Buenos Aires, there's a place called Recoleta, La Recoleta, which is kind of like where they have a lot of the memorials and tombs, and there's a lot of famous people
Mhm.
buried there, and all
Oh,
this
yeah.
crazy stuff where if you want to plot a plot of land there to be able to bury someone, it costs like 150 grand or something. Just absurd amount of money.
Oh my god, yeah, dude, I looked
And
up during this whole thing, I looked up where Michael Jackson was buried, and he's buried at this cemetery that I used to work by. So, like, I used to work at Warner Brothers, right? There's a
mm,
cemetery of all these, like, famous Hollywood people right across the road from Warner Brothers, and that's where Michael Jackson is. And, like, there's these temples. These people have temples for their caskets and their bodies.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
so surreal.
yeah. That's what's in Recoleta, and but then you think about it, how many human beings have existed? I don't know, I think it's like 100 billion or something like that. How many people have gravestones and are in cemeteries? It's probably like millions, but I
Yeah.
certainly not getting up into the billions. And so all of those people, what's happened to them? I imagine cremation wasn't that popular. Cremation's more of a modern thing. I feel with the ability to maybe like Viking funerals and stuff like that. So maybe, but that I'm sure probably like a lot of places where you've stood on, you're standing on was maybe once a cemetery or had someone buried there. That that
Oh,
that
yeah.
seems that seems logical to me.
Yeah. Well, isn't that what like Poltergeist is about? Like the house is built on an old cemetery, and that's why there's like a bunch of paranormal shit going on.
Yeah, but what I'm thinking is just every house should be poltergeist.
Yeah, you're right. No, you're right, dude. It's scary to think about because then there's also a big military cemetery out in Santa Monica, and I'm sure the government will hold on to that land forever. But it's like how do you plan for that space? Like, and how many people are gonna die? Like, how do you plan for like a cemetery? It's very strange.
Mm. But when you say forever, that's probably not correct because what governments don't last forever.
That's true.
Probably the most successful ones have been what a couple of 100 years, maybe getting up close to. I don't think there's any that have lasted for. more than 500, 600, you'd be probably pulling a bit of a stretch to say a continuous type one. So
Well, how long
all of
did
that,
Rome like, what about Rome? Like, did
Rome
Rome
wasn't.
have cemeteries?
Nah, I'm sure they did, but Rome wasn't that long. It was that was a couple of 100 years. Um,
Rome
of
lasted a couple hundred years?
I don't think it was that long. At least like its
No.
heyday.
No, I don't believe that at all. I no way. No way.
So I was
Can't even
reading just on
1,000 years.
it, and this is what I mean by governments as well. So you can have countries that have lasted forever, and it's
Yeah,
like this is the country, but even then, countries change and go. Prussia,
right,
for
right.
example,
Yeah,
things
right,
like that.
right.
But like a kind of continuous government in that's able to hold on to certain swaths of land and say like this is ours. And talking about cemeteries now,
Mhm.
let's say a millennium. Let's say they've lasted a thousand years. Even then, that those things change, come and go. I'm Yeah, I should look into this more. It's actually starting to interest me. What what happens to cemeteries when they get repurposed for other uses?
Yeah, I think they just let the bodies disintegrate. I feel like that's what happens, or they just
What
flood it.
it that I mean, I don't know how long caskets are meant to last for underground, but I I don't feel that they'll last for 1,000 years. So
No, they
yeah,
definitely won't, no. No, I mean, Michael Jackson's casket was, like, brass and fucking, like, velvet or something, like, maybe that lasts longer, but
yeah. You need a plutonian or a I don't know something real solid diamond casket.
or gold. How long will gold last? Because his casket was, like, gold plated.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You need the gold plating could just scratch and wear off, but you need like full gold.
Right.
3 centimeters thick or something.
Yeah.
That would be an expensive casket.
Yeah, you need, like, what's the thing from the Bible? You need, like, a what's the thing from Indiana Jones? Te you know what I'm talking about? The first Indiana Jones,
Um,
the Ten Commandments, the thing that's holding the Ten Commandments. You need like
yeah,
a
yeah,
you
I
need
can't
that
remember.
thing. I forget the name. Damn it. Well, no wonder I'm not Christian anymore. But uh, you need like I remember like that thing, the thing that holds the Ten Commandments. That's like it's like thick and like there's like gold in it. There's a lot of gold on that.
Sure, yeah, yeah.
You need something like that. That's funny, man. Well, hey, Kyron, dude, thanks for doing this, man. I think this is helpful. I mean, this has been helpful for me. Just like trying to talking to someone who's actually gone through it is so much more real than talking to someone who's just sympathetic about
Yeah,
it.
but I think around the same time period as well. We went through
That's
very
another
similar things.
that's so surreal, right? Like, what do you think about that? Like, last question. What do you think about us literally losing a parent 3 months apart? Like, that's got to be crazy, right? We're on different ends of Earth. Like, how? And we're somehow friends.
Yeah, that's
Somehow
that's
vibing. Like,
that's
and we're connected through Bitcoin and podcasting 2.0. Like, what is this?
yeah, that's the more surreal part because people die every day and people lose their parents every day, but the kind of connection and then being able to me being there in the US when your dad passes is even crazier.
Oh my god, yeah,
um
you were in the US, dude. Oh my, that's so crazy.
that was very very kind of coincidental. Maybe it was meant to be. Then who knows, maybe we maybe that's part of the reason we connected. We felt similar vibes from each other, and
Yeah.
you know who knows, maybe it's just a coincidence.
There's no
But
way it's a coincidence. I don't believe in that. There's no way. There's no way we have life-changing experiences and we just and like there's no reason for that. Like, no, come on. I don't believe that.
yeah, so it's I'm glad. Look, in terms of timing, I'm not glad it happened,
Yeah,
but in
no, yeah,
terms of
great
the
timing on
timing,
our part. Great
yeah,
timing. Like,
yeah,
thanks, Dad.
yeah. Thanks, Mom. Appreciate it.
That's awesome, dude. Well, dude, yeah, maybe we should just wrap this up. You do a podcast every weekend, right? Like, what's I guess we'll just do a plug for your podcast and then we can get out of here, man. When do you do
Yeah,
your podcast?
Yep. So 9 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time on a Sunday with my friend Juan, who I've mentioned a couple of times. It's similar kind of topics, to be honest. Like we'll dive into like philosophy, we'll dive into self development, dive into technology, things like that. Uh, so yeah, those very similar to kind of how we just recorded now. So we have a bit of a discussion on a topic. There's a topic, but not um, not at set terms of like this is what we're going to talk about exactly and things like that. And yeah, I do the book reviews as well every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. So if you ever feel like joining in live, jump in. Mere Mortals conversations, Mere Mortals book reviews.
Awesome. Well, Kyron, thank you for being here. Thank you for being on America Plus. It's been a pleasure, and I firmly believe this has to help at least one person. So, thank
Yeah,
you.
absolutely, absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Cole. Appreciate it.